Patrick Garrett, WAMC. It's public radio. When it comes to anime, often you see women's roles more diminished, but it's starting to get a little bit better with representation. What would you like to see change in the industry?
Specifically in anime, and I think I've seen a little less of it, which has been great. When I first started working in anime, which I guess was 10 years ago, as this was my first convention 10 years ago, I noticed that anytime the female characters had any sort of big empowering speech or rallying bit of information, like a wind would fly and the skirt would blow up, and I felt like it kind of diminished the effectiveness of the empowerment that they were trying to deliver. I haven't seen that as much, and that was probably one of the biggest things. I was like, why can't they deliver a speech? But when a guy does that, they would never do something like that to diminish that. So I've seen less of that, and I've been very fortunate to play a lot of really strong female characters, and I'm really grateful that I have the opportunity and that these directors think that I can do those characters justice. And I'm seeing it more and more that these female characters are not, they don't have to make excuses for why she's a great pilot or why she's a great leader or great swordsman. It is what it is. It doesn't matter that she's a girl. It doesn't matter that the guy is more sensitive. And so I kind of want to see a little bit more of that, where we don't have to explain why she's so great. Like, well, her dad years back was like, no, just she's awesome because she's awesome. And so I think it's been a great thing to see that changing in the industry. And I think obviously there's a little ways to go, but just seeing more representation, especially in the bigger video games, where the female characters aren't just like the pretty girl that gives the guy a pat on the back and tells him he's going to do a great job. Now she's out there fighting, and in some cases is the lead of the game, which is really exciting. I'm also seeing more opportunities for men to be more sensitive and get to be portrayed in a different light, and I think that's also important for people to be aware of all sides of a human being, and not just what society has dictated is kind of acceptable. Thank you.
Oh. CJ Maffers with ToonamiFaithful.com. Toonami just reached 20 years, its birthday, which is kind of crazy thinking about it.
Awesome.
What I was going to say is, what is your thought process hearing that Toonami's now been around for 20 years, considering your voice has been on the block prominently in a lot of roles?
That's crazy. And I mean, it's not shocking to me, actually. And I think in recent, I would say certainly in the last 5 years or so, I think anime has gotten more mainstream, which I think is very exciting. It's not, I mean, when I was in high school, we had an anime club, but it was kind of like the quiet, yo, we're after school, we're going to talk about anime. And now I see kids at school wearing Attack on Titan, Fairy Tail t-shirts, and that's so exciting. And I love that if I were to tell these kids, like, Toonami's been around for 20 years, they'd be like, no, it hasn't. It's like, yes, it has. You just haven't known because it was something you had to look for before. So now that it's out there and more people can get exposed to it and join this wonderful world of anime, I think that's, the more the merrier. It's exciting. Happy 20 years. That's awesome.
Hi, Console, and I write for a website called.
Sorry about that.
Awesome.
I wanted to ask you about the new movie that sort of online. And
Yeah.
So how has your character changed from the series to this?
Ooh. Well, there's a lot that she goes through in the movie, and I don't want to spoil anything. It definitely is, I think they did a really great job with the movie, because you don't have to have seen all of the series to be able to watch the movie. You could pick up with the movie, and I think they'll do a little bit of exposition to catch you up on what you might have missed. I know my husband hadn't seen much of the series, and he saw the movie, and we watched it subbed, and he loved it. It didn't affect his awareness or catching up with the story at all. she does go through a lot of changes in the movie, and her relationship with Kirito grows. You kind of see how much of a positive effect being in Sword Art Online in the first season, the first series, had affected her. And I think that's something that for people that don't, specifically parents, or I guess some teenagers that don't think that games or anime can positively affect someone, that they think it's like, oh, they're just lazy, they're playing games. No, there's things that you learn about yourself, and confidence levels, and things that you didn't know that you had in you, that when you're playing the game, you kind of step out of yourself and realize, oh, no, I can do this. And I think a lot of the characters in that series realize this through the movie. And so I hope it opens people's eyes that maybe aren't as accepting of anime or as accepting of games, but at the same time, there's also that cautionary tale that has been very, very prevalent with sword art. We have to be very careful about what technology is able to do now, and getting trapped in the world, or what technology can do to our brains, or the crazy things that can happen. So it's definitely scary, but it's really cool, and I was excited to work on it. I watched it subbed, met the creative team from Japan, and they actually were able to guide me and be a part of a couple of my sessions, which is very, very rare to have the director, Tomohiko Ito, there, and he told me about the process of recording in Japan, and there were a couple moments that he said he really wanted to make sure were exactly right for this version. So it was really great to have our English director and writer, Alex Von David, and the Japanese creative team such a part of the dub, and have them present, which was really fun.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dan Collette. I host a talk show web series called Game and Talk. It's mostly focused on video games, and so I want to ask you, you're in Persona 5.
Yes.
Very soon, which I'm very excited to play. So from my understanding, you're somewhat new to video game voice acting within the past few years or so?
Yeah, in the past couple of years.
So I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to the experience of what it's like working on such a long form and heavily voice acted game, and if that differs in any way from anime or film.
I don't know if it. It's definitely unique each time I'm working on a different project. For anime, I have the reference of the animation, which is always helpful as a guide. For film, I have the assistance and the guidance of the other actors in the scene with me. And for video game, it's kind of just me and the director, and trusting that they're going to get the right performances that will match mine, and that they know what they want. We had a little bit of animation to reference for Persona 5, but I think we did that near the end of the session, and everything else in the beginning was just getting to know these characters. And I was not very well versed in the Persona series before going to work on that project, and so there's been a couple of times. Normally I'll get video games and I'll record maybe 2 to 5 sessions. And I think with Persona, I probably had 15 to 20 sessions, maybe more. I just kept going in. She's like, we gotta bring you in for more. I'm like, this is the game that never ends. This is so cool. And even the sessions flew by. I felt like the stories and the arcs that in the game were so riveting that even when we would be wrapping one up, I was like, is that it? We can't have more of that? They're like, well, the story's done. But I just had so much fun in the world, and it's one of the things that I love about being an actor. And that a story is being told well when I have absolutely nothing except dialogue, a director, and a producer, and I can absolutely envision what it's going to be, just like I was reading a book. But I'm in the world. I feel like it's a film, or I feel like it's an anime. And it's the same time when you're reading a screenplay and you say, I can see the movie, I can see these characters, I can see what's happening. And that happens when I'm working on anime. I feel like I'm working with the other actor, or I don't even have to look at the animation. I feel like I'm right there. So that's kind of the magic of being the actor. And I definitely felt that working on Persona, which was really great. And now to hear all the feedback that it's getting, that people are enjoying it or seem to be enjoying it, is very gratifying because it was such a great experience working on it. I hope everybody has as much fun playing it. So, because I was very spoiled working on it.
Great, thank you so much.
He took my question. Okay, I guess as a follow-up, I'll ask you, in general with these video game roles, how much preparation can you really do? Because I've been told that in some cases they don't even tell you in advance like what role you're going to play or what game you're going to do. Is there any truth to that?
Absolutely. I never know what I'm playing, what I'm voicing, or I don't know if it's going to be a vocally strenuous session, if my character is like a commander or if she's a little fairy. I have no idea until I walk in the door. And for Persona 5, it was very top secret. So I don't even think we got a title until halfway through. And it probably didn't make much of a difference to me because, like I said, I wasn't as versed as others in the Persona series. But I know Xander, he knew everything about Persona. And so he said when he was first started working on it, he kept asking, like, so are we working on Persona? And they were like, can't talk about anything, can't talk about what we're working on. And I know they gotta keep everything top secret. They have to protect the intellectual property. But yeah, there's very little prep time that can go into stuff. I mean, if they want you to prep for something, they'll let you know, please reference such and such movie. We'd like kind of this vibe for the character. But for the most part, it's show up and hope for the best. Sometimes you get a script ahead of time. Most of the time you don't. And I never knew what arcs we were going to be doing. I never knew how many lines I had left. I didn't know if my character was going to live. So you kind of, it's like you're playing the game, honestly. You don't know what's going to happen.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I asked the same question to Chris Sabat. Do you have a favorite character across any video game, anime series, or what have you, that you haven't voiced, that you would like to voice?
Oh, that I haven't voiced. Jeez. I'm sure Chris had a way better answer. I don't know.
I can try a different question if it's too much.
I'm trying to think of a character. I mean, there's a lot of characters that I absolutely love. But they're, I mean, there's Disney princess characters I love. I love Hermione in Harry Potter. I think that's a really fun character. But I think the characters that I really enjoy are things that I haven't seen yet. So there's a lot of books that I'm reading. There's one called The Eight, which is deals with chess and political turmoil and art and things being hidden, kind of like a Da Vinci Code kind of a situation, but this girl kind of gets thrown into this world and she realizes that she's playing chess with all of these political world leaders, and it's not chess they're playing with, it's the world and the world power. And it was, all these guys get together, and whoever wins that match, their country is kind of like in power for. So it was a very interesting book, and I still haven't finished it yet. But that's the kind of stuff that I like, where a character has been thrust into a situation where she realizes there's a lot more at stake, and she doesn't know if she's capable of handling such a responsibility, but there's a lot of purpose behind it, and she knows she's got to do it. So any character like that, I am a big fan of. But I read a lot of books, so it would probably be one of those protagonists in any of the books I'm reading.
Nice.
Thank you.
That sounds like a really good book, actually.
I love all historical fiction, especially if there's art or something political or something that I can reference to. This might have happened years back. I'm all about it.
Nice. My question, because it's something I've brought up before on podcasts and with other friends just talking about it. Why hasn't Fairy Tail made it on Toonami yet? It's one of the most popular long-running shonen that have yet to ever be on, and I'm wondering why, and I'm curious your thoughts considering you're one of the main characters.
I have no idea, but I would love that. I think it's probably been you guys on Twitter that you guys have been tweeting, like, we should get Fairy Tail, or somebody's been on it. And so we've all been tweeting. I'm like, yes, I'm on board. Whatever we have to do to get Fairy Tale on Toonami. I miss staying up till 3 o'clock in the morning watching all of the shows and getting to live tweet. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea how all of that works with getting a show on Toonami. I think a couple of the Sailor Guardians and I were talking. We're like, why isn't Sailor Moon Crystal on Toonami? I don't know. I mean, I guess there's so many shows that are out that are great. I don't know how that works to get them on Toonami, but obviously being on Toonami gives the shows a crazy amount of exposure that they might not have otherwise. And I think that's been a big reason why it's become more mainstream, is it's more accessible to people, and I think that's in large part due to Toonami. So I'd love for it to be on there. Maybe we get more episodes faster, who knows?
Oh, that'd be great.
What are the challenges you find between adapting a character that's already been done, say, a Japanese that's been being done into English, versus creating a whole character from scratch on your own?
I think there are challenges in each, just like there are challenges for any medium for acting, but I think for dubbing, you have the animation, you have a set amount of flaps that you have, and you have to say the same amount of things. So we got to figure out how to localize the translation, make it sound real, make it sound like something that people would actually say and not like some direct translation. You don't want to embellish too much, but if there's tons of flaps and they're only saying I love you, but they're flapping for 30 seconds, like we've got to say something. So I think that's definitely a challenge, and I have dealt with that as I have been writing and adapting the scripts. But as an actor, I don't look at that as a challenge. I mean, I look at it as a challenge, but I think it's more fun. I mean, I get very excited when I have to figure out how to make a read work with the pause, and how can I say this line differently to make it flow with what they're doing, and matching her eyes, and listening to what the Japanese delivered and the integrity of that performance, and making sure to maintain it while making it my own. When you're creating a character from scratch, you rarely have anything more than just an image, if that. And then it becomes, well, we have this producer thinks this character should sound this way, the director would like it to sound this way, but it can't sound too similarly to the other voices. So we have a blank canvas, which is exciting, but it's also trying to fine-tune everybody's ideas. It's like reading a book and turning it into a movie. Everybody saw something differently in their head, and how can we make that the same? How can we find the best version of that to make everybody happy? So that would probably be the challenge. I think they're both fun, they're both exciting. It's just like coloring with markers versus crayons. I still get to color and I still get to play. It's just a matter of how I get to do it.
Thanks.
So you said with film and animation, you tend to work with the directors pretty often. I was wondering if that's the case in video games too. I know you were just in Nier Automata.
Yeah.
So like for example, did you ever meet Yoko Taro at any point? You know, he's known for being a character in the industry.
I haven't gotten to meet any of the Japanese creative team on any of the video games I've worked on. I think probably the closest to that of meeting the director, meeting the writer who originated the product from scratch would be on Borderlands, where I got to Anthony Birch was in all of my sessions, and we had a moment where my character was supposed to be doing guitar riffs, and we figured out like that is my Achilles heel, and I just don't know how to do them very well. And they said, well, we're kind of reimagining this character. We don't know if we want her to do that. And then Anthony was like, wait, what if Gage was really bad at guitar riffs? And as her stats increased, she got worse, but she thought she was getting better. And so then it became this very ironic, weird, painfully awkward moment for me of trying to do these horrible guitar riffs. Yeah, it's always nice when they're in there because they come up with ideas on the fly and they want to integrate them. But we haven't really had that same experience. I know we've definitely had, I always have a director, producer, writer, at least one, sometimes all of the above, in my sessions, but it's never been the Japanese team. It's usually the English localizing team, and they'll be talking to the Japanese, and I've had them Skype in, but I haven't gotten to meet with anybody, at least not for a video game. Hopefully soon.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Is there like a dream or an ideal role that you'd like to play from an existing anime or video game?
Yeah, I worked on an anime called Ghost Hunt a couple of years ago, and I know they said there was a light novel that existed, and no one knows how to get it, or it's not translated, and so I, in my crazy, super creative actor brain, thought it would be really fun if there was a way to make a movie about someone that tries to find this book and finds out that it's banned, and the reason it's banned is because these spirits are actually connected to this book, and then takes her all over the world, secretly, because I just want to travel all over the world. And also it would be really cool to do something with paranormal spirits and ghosts, and with Netflix making all these things from anime into live action projects, maybe it'll happen, who knows. But yeah, I any opportunity to revisit any of these characters ever again, I would jump at the chance to do. Because once I've voiced them, it's very hard to let them go, because I miss them.
Politics. Do you want to comment? I have a question.
Okay.
Or I can skip it.
Okay.
President Donald Trump's policies regarding not only immigration but America First, people see as affecting trade across over the seas. That could affect anime or manga or anything like that. If that happens, do you see there would be a way for Japanese animation to still penetrate the U.S. market in a way? Would there be collaborations with the U.S.? You know?
I mean, I would hope so. Obviously, the current political situation leaves things very, everything's very up in the air. I think a lot of people are scared. I think it's also, what I have seen is it's also putting sort of the power back into the people's hands, as if people aren't happy about something, they're making their voices heard, where I feel like in the past people would just kind of sit back and say, well, there's nothing I can do about it. And now people are saying, you know, I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to stand up, and I'm going to take care of people. I'm not going to sit back online and say that I'm not happy about something. I'm going to get out and do something in my community. I'm going to help people. And for that, I'm really excited to see how people are going to keep stepping up to the plate and trying to do the right thing. And I think that's great. It's making everybody accountable for things. And even though it might not be for the reasons everybody hoped for, I think as soon as we see the dark, the light also has to come shine a little bit brighter. So I would hope, and I think just because it's been around for so long and people are exposed to it, I don't think that people would be okay with just letting it disappear. I think we would miss it. I think we would find a way. The stories are just too powerful. There's too many great lessons, and they're universal lessons. And maybe that's just wishful thinking because I love this industry, and I love what I get to do. But I think because we have such diversity in this nation, that people can communicate and people would find a way to make that happen. And I would hope we're not getting into a situation where everything is being censored and ripped away from us. And if it is moving in that direction, I hope we all stand up and fight for creativity and fight for intelligence and for intellect and integrity and thoughts to continue on, because, you know, that hurts everybody.
Well said.
Thank you.
A show that's been making headways, at least in its second season, Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans. I'm curious if you've been following what's been going on with it, since I know it's being dubbed. It's been announced that the second season's being dubbed, you being Kudelia and all. Have you been able to keep up with the sub and knowing what's coming, or are you still kind of like left in the dark?
Slightly. I'm kind of left in the dark. I'm recording a little bit as we're going, and very oddly that we mentioned the political question, and then this led into that question. my first session recording back for that show was kind of when everything started getting a little bit more tumultuous with the political climate, and it felt very timely to be working on the show at that time, especially with what Cordelia is dealing with in season 2. And she's sort of in now a political place, and she's now kind of sitting at a desk and has to be more of a diplomatic figure and not necessarily out, and you kind of see sort of what it's like being a figurehead and the kind of things that she has to deal with, and that she still wants to do what's right and follow her path, but she also has some other people that are making deals, and she's confused and doesn't know why they're doing that. And so it's been interesting working on that show, and I get very frustrated for her, but I love the character, and I love her just like absolute connection to wanting to do the right thing and wanting to help people, and she has just crazy integrity, which I admire, and I love voicing that about her. I don't know what's coming, but I can only imagine with Gundam, it'll get real dark.
I just want.
Doesn't like to hold back.
You just compared her to Batman, so I mean, there you go.
Yes, that's what I want to see in the future for female characters. I want to see Cordelia as Batman.
You mentioned earlier that you've done some work writing, adapting scripts.
Yeah.
Do you ever see your career going more towards like doing your own series or doing more writing original screenplays or anything like that?
Yeah, I would love to. My husband and I earlier this year created a web series called Confessionals, which is kind of like an office-style, crazy, over-the-top comedy of voice actors in a parallel universe. So my character is voice actor whose twin brother is Bryce Papenbrook's character, and so we got a bunch of voice actors because we wanted people to be able to see that voice actors can also act on camera, and they're just actors. So we created this crazy, quirky world, and my husband wrote it, and I would love to do more writing. I was writing for Radio Disney, and I was writing for 3 stations there for 2 years, and then adapted a couple of shows for Funimation and The Strike Witches movie. But I would love to start getting back into writing television stuff and films and start producing my own content that way. So we'll see. Hopefully people like Confessionals, and I can start doing more of that stuff as well. People have said, would I get out of voiceover if I started doing more on-camera work? And when I was doing a lot of on-camera work, I missed voiceover. When I'm doing a ton of voiceover and on-camera work, I miss on-camera. So I think I will always have to have both in my life because they provide balance. They're working different muscles, and I would miss one without the other.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we only have time for one more question.
Okay, thank you. So continuing off of that, I know you've done some on-camera acting before in your career. If any of your characters that you've played so far if the series or whatever was adapted into a live film, would you ever consider acting that character? And if so, do you have like a favorite one that you'd love to play in person?
Oh, 100%. That is like one of the things I would absolutely love to do. And when I found out that Sword Art was getting a Netflix adaptation, I like emailed my on-camera agent, and then when Borderlands was getting a movie, I like emailed my on-camera agent. I don't know. I mean, I don't physically fit the type for some of my characters, but if I was ever contacted to work on these projects in any way, I would jump at the chance, just because I would love to be involved with this project and this franchise that has been such a big part of my life. I mean, I love these characters, but more importantly than that, I love the stories that they tell. So even if they said, we just have a couple of lines for you, would you do it? Sure. If they said, do you want to play your character? Sure. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think of like all of the characters that I've been lucky enough to play and which ones I would want to choose to do, and I don't think I could make a choice. It would be whichever one showed up for me. So.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.